You're live, Chair.
Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, meeting as the Crime and Disorder Committee. We're meeting on Thursday, the 10th of October. My name is Councillor Simon Morgan and I am the Chairperson of this committee. Members, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Could I ask members to avoid approaching the top table, as this could create interference with the cameras and live stream. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. Right, moving on to item 2, apologies for absence. May I have the apologies for absence, please? Sean.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you. We have apologies from Councillor Neil. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, minutes of the last meeting. It is recommended that the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of February 2024, found on pages 5 to 8, are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Spenceley. Is that approved by consent? Approved? Okay. Okay. Moving on to item 4, declarations of interest. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interests, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for members. Members are reminded that they are also required to disclose any such interest as soon as they become aware, should the need arise through the meeting. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Right. Moving on to public participation. As far as I'm aware, that who've not received any submissions from members of the public. Is that right, Sean?
Yeah, none were received. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. In which case, we can move on to agenda item 6, the Maldon District Community Safety Partnership update, which will be found on pages 11 to 34. And Spencer, I believe you're taking us through this, is that right?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And as per the agenda meeting, Chair and Vice Chair had asked me to not present the report verbatim as such, because members have had an opportunity to read it in advance. So perhaps, Chair, if we take questions at the end of the presentation.
Yeah.
What I've done is put a few slides together which take us through the 5 priorities and a focus on a particular project which we've been doing, which should be of interest to the members. I won't report anything in relation to policing, because we have Chief Inspector Ballard here tonight, and again with fire. We have fire representatives, Scott Beacon's here tonight as well, so I won't dwell on anything in those areas, because I'm sure you want to listen to their presentations. Okay, so looking at priority 1 is what I'm going to talk about first. Priority 1 is tackling crime and reducing reoffending. As you recall, when we met in March, we hadn't set our priorities for this current year because they're set by the Responsible Authorities Group. The only major change around the priorities was the addition of having acquisitive crime on the priority 4. So the priorities have remained very much stable. Crime has remained very much stable. So I'm just going to go through a few of the things which we do to tackle each of the 5 priorities. So on tackling crime and reducing reoffending, we do quite a lot of work on serious violence, gangs, drug trafficking and high harm offences. We meet quite regularly. Chief Inspector Ballard chairs the Serious Organised Crime Board.
Sorry, just interrupt. could you just explain what those acronyms, JSNA and VVVU, are?
I will when I come through them. Yep,
sorry,
most certainly.
I'll
Yeah,
be
sorry.
quiet.
Yeah. So that's the first. So we do a lot of work around serious violence and gangs, and we have a strategic meeting quarterly to discuss that and how we move forward. One of the other things I wanted to flag was the serious violence duty. We have a joint strategic needs assessment for Essex, which is completed, and that's completed by the Essex Violence and Vulnerability Unit. We have a statutory duty to do this now. Each district does, but thankfully the Essex VVU has a data scientist who can prepare that work for us. What we do have locally, which we're sent on a monthly basis, is a pack on Power BI, which gives us the data at ward level. You'll see that Maldon has a relatively low amount of offences, so that's 0.26 offences per 1,000 population. That equates to about 17 offences a year. So in comparison to the rest of Essex, we're right at the bottom, near enough. So places like Southend are just over 1 offence per 1,000 population. The trend for serious violence is a downward trend, 12%. So most districts in Essex are showing a downward trend. One of the other things I spoke about at the last meeting was we were going to do a Crime Stoppers. We called it a zone at the time, didn't we, Councillor? We following the discussions with Tollsby Parish Council, we decided to call it a project, and that leafleting of all of the properties within the parish areas was done, and we'll be doing some evaluation on that in the coming months to see what's actually happened as a result of that, the leaflets drops in those areas. Just a little bit on reducing reoffending. I thought I'd mention Operation Drakefall, which was the Essex response to the prison capacity issues which we were experiencing earlier this year. Earlier in the summer, nationally, we got to 83 available prison spaces across the whole country. When I got back from my summer break, it had increased to 800. And you're probably aware of some of the interventions that have been put in place to improve on that. So on the 10th of September, a number of prisoners were released across the country on the 40-60 split. So offenders were only actually doing 40% of their sentences. That created about another 2,000 spaces nationwide. So you can see we're up to around 3,000 spaces then. And also some other interventions were put in place. There'll be another second tranche of early prison releases. I think it's on the 26th or 24th of October. That obviously has an impact on housing, probation and managing those offenders. Fortunately, in Essex, I think it equated to 33 releases in Essex, so nothing really major impact on Essex as such. And similarly, there'll be a similar amount of people released in October. So whereas across the country there's been some quite serious issues around prison capacity, we haven't really experienced it too much in Essex. Some of the things we do to reduce crime is effective engagement in the communities. So that's either face-to-face or using social media. A couple of the things we've done recently, a few weeks ago, around Freshers Week, we done an evening education with the community policing team around drink spiking, and we've also done some cycle marking events. So when we had Ride London come to Maldon, we done some cycle marking events. Another thing we've been doing more recently is joint working with the business crime team. So if there's any issues, and you recall at the last meeting we spoke about the business park down at Haybridge, how they're experiencing some theft. So as a result of that, the business crime team went in and spoke to all of the shops in that area. They've also been doing a walkabout for us recently to discuss radio trials within the area, so like a Town Watch radio trial. So we're going to be looking at that in the coming months. So hopefully we'll be having an aerial installed next week, which will allow us to start that pilot. And there seems to be quite a lot of interest from the local businesses as to moving that forward. Priority 2 is around driving down antisocial behaviour. A lot of this focus has been on youth nuisance. You'll see from the statistics that antisocial behaviour is coming down. We do a lot of partnership patrols with not just police and fire, but also with people like the youth service, where we can do youth outreach and listening to people's concerns. I think one of the big hotspots I've flagged there this year has been the issues around home ill lock, which has required a multi-agency response, not just from Maldon District Council and the police, but also from people like the South Essex Parking Partnership and the Waterways. We're looking at some projects over a potential bid to the Police Commissioner's Office to do some further work around that to make sure that the resources aren't affected so much next year. In terms of community engagement, obviously the community engagement team play a key role in providing reassurance and intelligence, and also effective case management of complaints when we get there, and the provision of diversionary activities for young people. So either things like the youth clubs which are delivered by some of the parishes and by the youth service, and people like the voluntary service who do the Power of Gaming, which was done in Maldon but has now been extended to Burnham as well. A little bit more about priority 3, identifying and supporting vulnerable people. Big focus on domestic abuse, social isolation, suicide prevention, mental health, hate crime, and prevent. I'll say a few words about prevent. Usually no one's too interested when I talk about preventing violent extremism. I chair the Essex Prevent group, so it's my daily job. We've had a bit of a summer of unrest, haven't we? So in terms of prevent, it's very much on the radar now. We're pleased to say, I mean, the work we do with the Home Office has all been signed up. We have what's called a situational risk assessment for Essex, and we also have an action plan. More importantly, we've got a whole suite of training on various subjects like misinformation, online radicalisation, training sessions for elected members as well. So if you do get an opportunity to take that up, please do. What I will say for Essex is we got it right during the summer. So having that effective communications message coming out from a central source worked really well. There was lots of anxiety. I've spoke to a lot of people who work in the community, who provide services with young people. There's a lot of anxious young people. There's a lot of anxious parents as well. So putting out that consistent message from one central resource worked really well. And I'm sure the Chief Inspector might have some words to say on it later on in his presentation. Education and events, we've done work on healthy relationships. As I said earlier this year, Crucial Crew went back to face-to-face workshops. This year's Crucial Crew was delivered at Maldon Fire Station. Thank you, Fire Service, for the use of your building. The young people involved in it really enjoyed having it in a fire setting as such, you know, because it was really good for them. And this year we moved away from the usual type of delivery of Crucial Crew and focused very much on mental health of young people, because that was something which was being highlighted through our various strategic groups. Also, again, this year, the older persons work, we've usually done a single event for this. What we're going to be doing this year is going to locations. So we're going to do several locations across the district because we think we'll get better turnout and it'll be better value for money in terms of speaking with people. And you've probably been aware of how dementia-friendly communities has really spread across Maldon now, so that's really, really good. We do a lot of work there. Lots of work around hate crime. And we also, at the start of September, to mark Suicide Awareness Day, we done a mindfulness event at Haybridge, which was really well attended as well. I won't say much about Safe, Well and Secure because my colleague will be, I'm sure, but this year we done it in Haybridge and Dengie villages, so that's all I'm going to say there. What I will say a little bit now, is when I said I'd do a special feature on some of the projects we're doing, VORG, which is violence against women and girls, big topic. The government have announced that they want to halve that in the next 10 years, along with knife crime, so it's only right that we focus on that. I said at the last meeting about the Women's Safety Project. We've got a questionnaire going out next week, which will be able to gauge people's opinions on safety in Maldon District, and we'll be launching the charter and doing the filming for a video for this charter first week in January. So I've only come out of a meeting this afternoon to discuss that. So lots of the work around that is moving forward, which I'm pleased to say. It will be very different to some of the charters which have currently been delivered across Essex. There'll be a bigger community focus for Maldon, and it'll also be tackling some of the hidden nighttime economies. So whereas some districts will have a city centre with a nighttime economy, we don't really have that as such in Maldon. What we do have are lots of locations where VORG, or violence against women and girls, could happen, but it's more of a hidden harm. So places like, I'm not suggesting here, some of the clubs, you could have things like sailing clubs, yacht clubs. We know that our population can swell by 5,000 or 6,000 in the summer months because we've got lots of holiday parks. Most of those holiday parks will have a venue with licensed premises and discos and things like that. So the focus needs to be more of a community focus for Maldon. Only Tuesday we had the wrap-up session with Nottingham Trent University around Operation Minerva. I spoke about this at the last meeting where we have a data set showing VORG offences for the whole of Essex. That's been tweaked now. In the next month or so, it will provide us with perception data as well, which will be really important because particularly in areas where we've got quite a low amount of offences, i.e. Maldon, we need to discuss the perceptions of crime as well. So the project I'm going to say a little bit more about is one of the most exciting projects I've been dealing with, and that's with a charity called Make Space for Girls. And it's about looking at our green spaces and making them more inclusive for teenage girls. So I think I spoke about this briefly at the last meeting. If you go to a standard park, you'll get a skateboard ramp. 84% of those users are teenage or males. If you get to a Muga style pitch, 85% of those are males. You'll get a play area for under 12s, but not a lot for teenage girls. So what we done is we worked with the Plume Academy in July. If we can just flick on to the next slide, please. I'll just talk about how we did this. So we worked with charity Make Space for Girls and some consultants, Julia King and Associates. This is a piece of work which I've done in Chelmsford with the Boswell School and Chalmer Valley High School. So we've done an urban park, a rural park, and now this third consultation is what we call a destination park, i.e. Promenade Park. Because it was important that this piece of work fed into the work we're doing around the procurement of the skate ramps for Promenade Park, West Maldon and Burnham Riverside, it is important that we completed this over a shorter period of time. So we actually done 3 workshops over a space of 3 days with 16 Year 9 female students from the Plume Academy. Year 9's always the best. They're now 14 years and they've got a voice. I know I've got one of them. So I can confirm that's a really good group to work with. And what we done was workshops. So we done collages and zines and try to get the young people to think about the public realm and what matters to them, what they like to see from the public realm and how they'd like to see things differ. Talk about spaces which they use, talk about spaces that they don't use, and talk about spaces that they don't use, but might want to use. I know it's a really weird way of saying it, but it worked in the other two ones. So workshop 2 involved an actual physical walk around Promenade Park. So we didn't just walk around the skate ramp, we walked around the whole of the park. And there's lots of things they liked, lots of things they didn't like, and we'll come on to that in a minute. And then the final workshop was they had large blank images of the park where they were able to put themes and things that they'd like to see. So if we just go on to the next one. This one's a good example of how they'd like to see Promenade Park activated. And what I will do, members, is we've got the final report for this. So, Sean, if for the minutes, I'll, if that's okay, Chair, circulate the full report to members because it will be an interesting read. So activating the park, you'll see the things they're sort of liking. Social seating, non-traditional gyms. They love the idea of a pop-up cinema, which is great. Swings, sort of hanging out tables and chairs. Improved toilets, lit up swings with a shelter. If you go through the whole list there. So things which they really like are colour, lighting, swings for adults, not just under 12s, and and if we go on to the next slide, I've got a few of the recommendations. So what we've done is we split up the students into groups of 3 or 4, and then you'll see they've got their little plan of Promenade Park, and they come up with the ideas which they'd like to see. You'll see there things like circular seating, the outdoor cinema theme. The Plume are really keen on that outdoor cinema theme. Orb-style swings lit up with fairy lights. They really liked the bird tower at Promenade Park, and you'll see there they wanted a trail of lights leading you to the bird watching tower, and something creative around there. So that was Elia's, Megan's, and Molly's ideas. If we go on to the next one, we've got Grace, Sophia, and Daisy, who they liked the idea of some campfire nights, pits for roasting marshmallows. Oh, everyone likes that, don't they? Again, hanging seats around the skate park, pink and funky shapes, and swings that circle facing each other. So I think that social side of, rather than having a rigid cold bench, having something sort of funky with colour where they can face each other, speak to each other, and just generally hang out. And again, they like the idea of some lit up seating under the birdwatch tower. And again, that cinema theme has come through again. If we go on to the next one, please, Paul. And this is sort of the recommendations. And I've been living skate parks for the last 24 hours. So I've been with some other colleagues scoring the tenders which have come in for the skate park. This morning we had a 10 o'clock call with a female skater. Last month we had a call with a student, a Maldon skater who's based at Brighton Uni, more experienced skater. But when I said about things being inclusive, we need to make sure that the design's right. So it's not just for experienced users, but also for new users and transition users, and also things like roller skates rather than just skateboards. And really pleased to see that the designs that we've had in and we've scored, which I'm not allowed to say any more about, have all taken this report, because the draft report which we produced went out to all of the tenderers. And again, this is just an example of what the young people would like from the skate park. So again, including in that hangout spaces, beginner-friendly areas, more and improved shelter. So what they really loved when we done the walkabout is the sort of shelter at the prom, which is more of a, I'm not going to say it's more suitable for older persons, but they like that shelter, but what they'd like is it in a sort of younger, funkier sort of style, which, so things like that. You see there, when we asked them about why don't they skate, they say, well, we do skate, we roller skate. so could there be more areas suitable for roller skating? Could they borrow equipment sometimes? And we do with Active Essex, we do a skate jam in Maldon and Burnham each year, which are really well attended, where they turn up with about 20 skateboards and helmets and teach young people how to skate. You'll see the use of colours, more fun colours to make the place more appealing. And finally, they put there about the shelter, a place that is comfortable, watertight and adjacent to the skate park. You've got a picture of the existing one there. It's a bit cold, it's a bit open to the elements. So they're the sort of things that they'd really sort of like from there. Moving on to priority 4, and this is about increasing confidence. I mean, we have the rural crime strategy. The impact of crime in rural areas, as we very well know, agricultural theft can be massive. I don't know how much a tractor costs these days. I'm sure probably in the £100,000 mark, I should imagine. So the impact of theft in agricultural areas is much higher than what it is in normal areas. Fly tipping, heritage crime, work very closely with the Essex County Traveller Unit if we do get unauthorised encampments. And again, the community engagement team play a key role here with things like Operation Fume, where we work with other agencies such as the Community Policing Team, the Rural Crime Team and Environment Agency, where we look at waste carrier licences. And again, attendance at things like Farm Watch and Neighbourhood Watch. We hosted Neighbourhood Watch earlier this week in these very offices. So we alternate between Chelmsford and Maldon, but we're getting a lot more members from Maldon joining up now. And finally, on to my last slide, which is around priority 5, promoting road safety and challenging irresponsible driving. Giving a big mention to the community engagement team again. We're accredited with the Community Safety Accreditation Scheme. I think we're the only district still doing this. We have about 45 locations across the district and 18 parishes involved in that. That's doing speed enforcement over and above what Essex Police do. This year we've done some additional work. OPDAR was the Home Office response to hotspot patrols. Unfortunately, Maldon doesn't have enough antisocial behaviour for an actual hotspot, but what the Safer Essex Road Partnership has got is funding for antisocial behaviour on the roads. And we certainly get antisocial behaviour on the roads in Maldon District. So we have had some funding come in for additional patrols in Maldon District for that. You'll see the amount of captures we get. That's only for 4 months, almost 2,000 captures in 4 months. So if you times that by 3, that's what we get almost in a year. Trying to encourage community speed watch, lots of education with our other partners. And finally on there, we're going to do a bit of a focus on the Lower Burnham Road. As I said to you earlier, I had a meeting with a company this afternoon to look at some potential ideas around Hoe Mill Lock. We're looking to extend similar ideas to the Lower Burnham Road, where we can do a joint project with our partners on that. I'll take a breather there, Chair. I think I've gone through my slides.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. That's very informative. Thank you indeed. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Clark? Councillor Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. I think the plans for the Promenade Park and the ideas are absolutely fantastic. And, you know, obviously I was once a girl a million years ago and I wouldn't have thought of any of that. So congratulations to the students that came up with that. I just wondered if anyone mentioned the idea of table tennis, outdoor table tennis, or I think it's probably called swing ball, when you have the pole and the ball that goes around. Because in the same way that people rock up to the skateboard park with their skateboard or their roller skates, you would turn up to those with your bat and your ping pong ball and what have you. And they're very, you can start very simply on an outdoor table tennis without really sort of looking like you're being uncool, because you can just stand there and knock a ball and not try very hard. But it can lead on to much better things. And I just wondered if that came up at all, because it seems to me like it could be a good idea. Thank you.
I think there's quite a range of sports which were discussed. I think the favoured response, the most favoured one for the young people was netball. They're really interested in doing some more netball in the area. So I think what we need to do now is like what we've done with our first project, we're going to get the young people to present to their teachers, to their parents and guardians, and to interested parties such as yourselves. So an opportunity to present their findings where I think we can look at that in more detail and see what other interventions can be. But I think, yes, Councillor, that's a great idea.
Councillor Bell.
Sorry, it's Councillor.
No, you go.
Thank you. No, I was just wondering if we know whether any of our 33 early release prisoners have reoffended again.
So the 33 released across Essex, I don't know that answer. All I can tell you is they're being managed by probation and the integrated offender management team. Where appropriate, some of them being tagged. So I think it's too early to say at that stage. I'm more than happy to ask those figures and provide them back to members.
Yes, sorry, through the chair.
Sorry,
Yes,
through-
please, because it's my understanding in one area someone reoffended on the day that they were released, and it was quite a serious sex crime. So, understandably, people are very alarmed about the early release scheme. So that'd be great, Spencer. Thank you.
Councillor Spencer.
I think, yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to say that actually I agree with what Councillor Stevens said with regard to the fantastic work done at the prom and with Make Space for Girls. Interestingly, one thing that I do know is that on the North Heybridge Garden suburb, the play areas there have been designed with Make Space for Girls, and we were actually shown a presentation by the developers of these fantastic spaces that they've built, you know, circular, where they can sit together. On two other notes, one with regard to netball, we actually had somebody come forward at Heybridge to the parish councillors who's a professional netball coach and wanted to work with young girls to establish a club, because obviously one half of my ward, Heybridge West, we have the children there in one half are apparently among the 20% most deprived nationally. So obviously we had a real desire to make that come about, and we spoke to people here and we weren't able to come up with a suitable and available venue for them to play netball, and so we lost that opportunity. So I think those things need to be, you know, really worked on. And then I really commend that work. Very quickly, we had an interesting experience, and this shows you how much of a need there is for this. So at Plantation Hall, we had an extension built which has a community space, and the community space is like to be honest with you, it's like a great big open porch with chairs and what have you, and they can bean bags, and people can come in, older people can come in and sit there for warmth and all sorts of things. But what did we find that we didn't expect? A group of young teenage girls turning up every evening because it was somewhere secure and warm that they could stay, away from other children in the family, as they told us, and away from boys. So actually, we accidentally provided them with somewhere that we didn't know would be used in that way. So I thought it was a very interesting thing to link into everything that you're saying. So thank you for all that work.
Councillor Morley.
Yes, thank you for that report. Going on from what Councillor Bell was saying, do you or the police in general have a fear of deterrent now if they perceive they're going to get lesser sentences? I just wondered what your views were on that, because that's what tends to think now, especially drugs and things like that. Oh, well, you're going to make so many millions or thousands or whatever, and just do the time, and then, you know, do you have a fear, or in general, is there a fear of that, do you think?
I think the first tranche of early releases were very relatively low-level offences, weren't they? I think the second tranche in later on this month, I think there'll be a number of persons who have been imprisoned for Class A drug offences. So it will be interesting to see how that pans out. I think it's a little bit early to say at this moment. But, you know, we need to make sure that those people who are offending at this moment in time can be put away in prison. And I think that was the concern before. With the running out of prison spaces, it's important that, people are put away for the crimes when they do offend. I think it's a bit too early to say what the impact will be, but I can reassure you, probation and the police are all over this one in terms of managing offenders.
It's just what you get this from the media. I know you shouldn't believe everything you read in the paper. Some weren't tagged and all this stuff, but also with going back to the park, brilliant idea for girls and things. But as you get a congregation of girls, you'll get a load of boys. It'll be a bit of a magnet for boys. I'm surprised that the girls didn't ask, say, a warden or someone to be sort of on duty. Would that be a possibility? Is there enough funding for that? And now we're getting greener electric, can we have a bit more lighting perhaps, because light is secure, is safety. Like with our business, we just leave the lights on. It just feels better rather than, did they ask for that out of interest?
I think lighting featured quite a lot. As I said in the presentation, the bird tower, they wanted a lit pathway to that. So that could be we could look at solar power lighting for that. And I think it's quite interesting to see the young people of Maldon had a relatively low fear of crime when compared to the similar groups of students which we looked at in Chelmsford. So they see Promenade Park as a safe place. I think lighting's always going to come into it. I mean, in terms of patrols, I mean, not just the community policing do regular patrols, but also the community engagement team are also doing regular patrols in the area as well. But I think lighting has featured, and it's not so much also the spotlighting of things. It's the colourful lighting up trees, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Clark, could I just ask, there is a thing called the Central Area Master Plan, which is a sort of part of the planning and LDP process, which includes Promenade Park. So I'm just wondering where these proposals fit in terms of going forward to that, to actually be considered for implementation.
So the final report's only been out.
Sorry, you able to shed more light on this?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, as Mr. Spencer, I think was going to actually, Mr. Clark was going to say, the report has only recently come out, but it is something that we are incorporating within the Prom Park Management Plan, which is under development at the moment. So we'll be looking at some of these recommendations to see whether that's something that can be embedded within the future plans within the Prom Park Management Plan.
Thank you. Anything you wanted to add to that, Mr. Dunn? No. That's fine. Councillor Hayward.
Hi, I'm coming back actually with Councillor Bell and then with the ex-offenders coming out. What was the criteria for obviously who was let out? How do they work it on? Because obviously some of these, you said there's a percentage, they said 40%, after they've done 40%. But if they're sex offenders or really violent crimes, what was the criteria of what offenders came out? Is there, was it quite low crimes, or was it a high, was it just worked on the percentage of how long they'd been inside?
I can give you my response for that, but I think it's something I might have to take away. So in terms of Essex, it was low numbers. In terms of HMP Chelmsford, there was 13 persons released from Chelmsford, so it's very low numbers. I think most of them were low-level offences. I'm not aware that there were any sex offenders released on that first tranche, but I'll have to clarify that with my probation colleagues. As I said, the second tranche, I think there will be some Class A people who've gone away with possession with intent to supply for Class A, so that might be slightly different. But all I can say is that both probation services and the integrated offender management teams are managing these individuals. But I think it's a little bit early to say since they've only been out a month. But as Councillor Bell said, there might be some offences which have been committed already. But I think probably the best thing to do would be to go back to probation and ask for a report. Perhaps it's something for the March meeting we might want to consider. I think that'd be quite, we'll probably have the figures by then.
I'll just come back, not on that, but just obviously going back to the park as well. I might as well get both in while we're here. Obviously, Councillor Spencer said about the netball and things like that. We have got table tennis table in Maldon Prom actually, which is hidden away, but there is one there. It's an open space. This is what a lot of councillors tend to make a mistake on. They put a netball court in and it's a closed, you've got to rent it, which is what Maldon Prom have done, like most of their tennis courts, etc. Or we out in Mayland have got a tennis court which we've just updated, and our front one, I insisted we left it open. So we didn't have gates on it, we don't charge. We charge for the back court, so we've got one court, and we've got basketball, we can do netball in there, we can do football in there, and it's a free space for anyone to go into. So I think it's quite important to have an open space you can go into without having to go and get a key or go and be allowed to go into it. So it's something we do and we find it works very, very well. So.
Councillor Bell.
Sorry, it's really relevant to what Councillor Morley and Councillor Hayward have been saying, because we recently got the Nugger in Burnham, and we recently had a request from some young people if lights could be turned on, and the response was not unless you're paying for it, unless you're paying to hire it. So that completely is in opposition to everything we're trying to say here. So I think if departments could talk to each other a little bit, that would be helpful. And I forgot to put my microphone on, sorry.
Yes, I just got a little message.
Anything you want to add to that?
I just agree with the members there. I mean, what we've got to remember by any of these interventions, there's some really clear public health benefits by getting young people out into green spaces. We know from our public health figures, things like teenage obesity is quite high in Maldon. So anything we can do to encourage people out into those areas and using the green spaces is quite important. So.
Just a quick comeback on that. I've actually just come from a youth club in Mayland, okay, and I left near enough 20 youngsters playing in that court outside, and they weren't on their computers, they weren't on their phones, so it does work. So.
Councillor Morley.
Only because there was such a large list. This is the last one. About the fly tipping in particular, waste is changing now, and I'm getting reports of large amounts of waste being tipped now. And with all these different batteries and things, they really are quite dodgy now, and they're becoming quite a fire hazard as well, this fly tipping, and children could be playing on it. I just think they could up the, I don't know what they are or not, but just check these various things. They're, as you say, waste carriers licenses and things. You know, I'm in the waste business. We're literally up to there in red tape and everything. But I'm sure it'd be lovely if they could be checked. I know they do roadside checks on, dare I say, transits. Other vans are available, but you know what I mean anyway. So I don't know if that's going on or behind the scenes, and that's, thank you.
Yes, Councillor, I assure we have some in the diary to do more. I won't publicly name dates, but
It's pretty nasty stuff, this waste now with modern technology.
Okay, anyone else that want to? In which case, Mr. Clark, thank you very much for that, this interesting presentation, and thank you for answering our questions so thoroughly. So moving on now to agenda item 7, the police performance update, and Chief Inspector Ballard.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. So I've got my presentation. It will be on the screen for you to look through. I won't go through everything that's written on here because some of it there's quite a bit of information at times.
Sorry, I do apologise. We need to. There is a recommendation for the item that we've just heard from Mr. Clark, which we do need to deal with. Sorry, that's my fault. So the recommendations review and comment on the current progress of the initiatives undertaken by the partnership to date. I so move. Seconded by Councillor Spenceley. All in favour? Thank you. Right. Sorry about that. Please continue.
Thank you, Chair. Not a problem at all. So the first slide, I know I've been here a few times now and I'm grateful for you having me back, but I just thought I'd just reiterate the current policing structure from a local perspective, uniform point of view in the Maldon district. So the two types of uniform policing teams that you'll see in Maldon are the community policing team and the local policing team, which is essentially the response officers. So the community policing team is headed up by Inspector Sam Girdleston, who sits under me. They have 16 PCs, constables, 4 police community support officers, and then 2 sergeants that work out of Chelmsford but also cover Maldon as well. In addition to that, there are 2 town policing teams. One is in Chelmsford, which is the details are on there, and then the one obviously that's relevant to this evening is the Maldon town team that's supervised by Sergeant Matt Dolby and consists of 5 PCs and 1 PCSO. In addition to that, there are 2 community safety engagement officers that work across both Chelmsford and Maldon, and then there are 4 children and young person officers that work across both Chelmsford and Maldon, and their work is predominantly centred around working alongside local schools, young people and youth justice teams that work out of Chelmsford. Obviously, District Commander is myself, and the local response teams work out of the hub just downstairs, the policing station just within the Maldon District Council. But for the first time, and I'm very, very happy to be saying this, I haven't just got a community safety hub in Chelmsford anymore, I've now got one in Maldon. So since the last time we had our meeting earlier on this year, the community safety hub for Maldon has been established, and both my town centre team and officers and members of the community safety engagement team and other departments all work out of that. It's a fantastic space. I'm really grateful to Sue and Spencer and everyone at the council for their support in setting it up, and it's already working really, really well, and we're reaping the benefits of them working in the same shared space and having those constant daily conversations with each other around the problems that are being faced in Maldon district by the community and how they can resolve those. So that's a very notable plus on where we've been last time. Just a very brief sort of overview there. So that's the Essex Police Force Plan, which is linked in with the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner's Crime Plan, which has been recently revised following his re-election earlier on in the year. And you'll see there that in general terms, we've got our priorities around our offences and what we're trying to do in order to reduce crime, have safer communities and help people. Just a general, the next slide is a little bit more data centric, but just a bit of an overview. So just over the 12-month period to July, albeit the next slide is the August figures, so I appreciate there's a slight difference in those. Crime in Maldon has stayed relatively stable. So there was a slight increase over the summer months, but in fact that's come back down, and we're now there's been no overall increase in regards to crime in Maldon over the last 12 months. What I would say as well on this point, so in volume terms and per 1,000 head, Maldon has the lowest crime of any district in Essex from a policing perspective, and it's 50.6 crimes per 1,000 household. Which, as I say, outside of Stansted Airport, that is the lowest of any district in the force, which is always positive. We have seen and will continue to see a positive reduction in regards to the number of antisocial behaviour that has been reported, but we have seen some increases in respect of certain crime types which are not out of kilter with other districts within Essex and also nationally, and that is we have seen a yearly 12-month on year rise in dwelling burglaries and vehicle crime. However, to mitigate that ever so slightly, some of the work that I'll briefly reference later on in the presentation that's been ongoing within the Maldon district around both of those crime types has actually seen some really notable reductions in both residential burglary and vehicle crime in the last 3 months. So whilst the 12-month data shows we've got an overall increase, the more recent data around the 3 months has actually shown that we're coming down. So there's some positives there. Again, I appreciate that's probably quite small, so that's why I've given that bit of an overview. Chair, if members wish, I can always come back to this slide at the end, because I accept that it is quite small and there's a lot of data on there. But this is just a general overview of all crime, and then certain crime types broken down into various different classifications that we and all other forces use in England and Wales, and you'll see that there's a lot of information on there. However, the one bit of context I would hope that you'll take away is whilst all crime is too much, the numbers are relatively low in Maldon, so therefore sometimes the percentages can seem slightly larger than they would primarily be. But just to put a bit more context on it, if I take us back to pre-COVID and the challenges that brought and the changes that made in policing, we're actually 414 crimes lower now than we were pre-COVID years. Now, this is a very busy slide, so I apologise in advance. However, I will talk through some of these, and this is just some of the things that we've done in the last 6 to 8 months to tackle some of the issues that have been raised to us by the community. The first one I'll mention is dwelling burglaries, and with the fact that we did see a rise, and there was some particular offending in the Cold Norton and surrounding villages areas in and around the Christmas and just after period of this year. As a result of that, the community safety engagement officers, the tri-service officer, who obviously is ambulance, fire and police, and along with various partners from the Community Safety Partnership, put a lot of work and effort into doing a great deal of community engagement. We did a lot of crime prevention advice, and a lot of door knocking to support and reassure the community, as well as some of the pursue elements of policing around trying to identify offenders, and some of the old-fashioned police work where we used to go and patrol overnight in certain unmarked cars and stuff like that. That has seen an impact, and we've fortunately, through a lot of work and effort, those sort of areas haven't seen the same level of offending. And as I say, in the last 3 months, the residential burglaries has continued to reduce. In addition to that, we've had some engagement events, including our colleagues from fire around fire safety, personal safety and crime prevention in Burn and Riverside. And we've also done some fraud prevention work in relation to areas of Maldon and Adenji, in regards specifically to sort of dementia groups and those that might feel vulnerable to that type of offending. We've done continued high visibility patrols in rural areas to support the public in response to concerns around suspicious behaviour and burglaries. And finally, on this slide, the Maldon Town Team and Community Safety Partnership have delivered the Make Space for Girls consultation that Mr Clark has already mentioned. And just a little few snapshots there of us out and about. I know this is an area that's close to a number of hearts in the Maldon district, and rightly so, and that is the speeding issue. I think if there was a single issue that I get contacted by councillors and members of the public from within the Maldon district on a regular basis, it is speeding and road safety, because of the challenges that are probably not unique but very specific to the Maldon district. So it is a key focus for ourselves and our partners in the Community Safety Partnership. There have been a number of deployments throughout the Maldon district in regards to our registered sites that we utilise, and that's not just sticking within Maldon, that is utilising areas and villages outside as well, and trying to get as far across the district as possible. Just to give a bit of context, it's not just the local community policing team and community speed watch that utilise those sort of speed enforcement tactics. We're also supported by our wider policing family in our operational policing command, so our roads policing officers, traffic officers in Old Money, and in the year to date to July, I haven't got any more updated data than that, unfortunately, because of the nature of the systems. In that 12-month period, there've been over 4,000 offences, motoring offences, identified through the TrueCam and other mobile speed enforcement devices by their road policing colleagues. So some really good work done there. It's ongoing. I would never say that we are at a point where we would look to sort of scale back ever so slightly what we're doing around that, because we accept that that is 100% a genuine community concern for the people of Maldon district and ourselves as well. So that type of activity will continue to progress as we move through the year. Part of our work is very centric around engaging with the community and making sure that we are visible and accessible. So there's a number of different events that we do that range in various different areas, ages, demographics, and also for different purposes. So there are some examples of the work that we do, some in collaboration with colleagues in Essex Fire and Rescue in regards to local issues, fire safety, and also the testing of resident smoke alarms. Apologies if I'm taking any of your presentation, I do apologise. We've also got our community safety engagement officers and our children and young person officers. We hold regular talks and lessons with children and young adults around various different issues and ranging across various different types of concerns that they may have or may wish to raise with us. And that goes from primary school ages all the way up through to secondary school and colleges after that and higher education. So we have some really, really valid and good interactions. Again, there's a mention of the fraud advice, and then we also to piggyback on Mr. Clark's presentation, we mentioned that we were at home ill lock in regards to the growing concerns that were had there and the response that was put in place by partners. A little bit now on the rural engagement team. So this is information that's been provided to me by that team. They're not part of my command, but they are people that obviously work as part of the wider Essex Police family. So in the last 12 months, the rural engagement team have taken part in many events within the district, which are named there. And they've also done a significant other number of community engagement events in the last year, where they offer community crime prevention advice along with safety advice in regards to crime prevention for those that attend. And you'll see there's a number of different events that they've attended in the last 12 months. Just to give a bit more context around their operational policing, they work closely with the National Farmers Union, and also they've been running their regular days of action under Op Galileo in regards to preventing and detecting offenders in regards to fly tipping, in support of colleagues and partners within local councils. There's a number of different operations and visits that they've done in regards to fly tipping, environmental crime to support our colleagues in the Environment Agency, along with other types of events that they've attended to support our ongoing work. The rural engagement team have been have identified that in the last 12 months they've had 28 arrests, they've done 79 stop and searches. They've issued 11 community protection warnings or community protection notices, which is what those acronyms refer to. They've seized 128 vehicles and they've issued 307 tickets themselves for road traffic matters that they've identified. Just to bring it back a little bit more local again, just to highlight really the fantastic work that the Maldon town team do and have done in one specific area. This isn't all they've done. They do an awful lot of other work, but around disrupting organised crime groups that operate in the district, either through travelling in or operate as in they are already within the district. So they've executed a number of warrants and made numerous arrests where they've seized 27 vehicles, they've seized £56,000 worth in cash and approximately £430,000 worth of cultivation product that would have had that value. And just one sort of example there, 200 wraps in excess of cocaine, unmeasured amounts, namely from two individuals that I haven't named for obvious reasons, following a warrant that was conducted at a local address. So some really positive, strong work in regards to reducing the type of offending and offenders within the district that cause the most harm to the community. And then just to end, just some stats for you really, because I know sometimes it can, it's nice to know sort of a bit of an idea about sort of volume and it's not all about numbers, I appreciate, but sometimes these are interesting and relevant. So in the past 12 months, just the Maldon town team and the local policing response team that are based at Maldon, so the teams that I command, have arrested a total of 540 people for a total of 898 offences. Inclusive of that, 56 arrests for drug-related matters, 242 for offences against a person, 38 for offences relating to public disorder, 67 for theft and other offences, 51 for offences with weapons, and 72 for offences against property. And you'll see there just below, there's a little line that just shows you over the last sort of 6 months, the number of arrests that have been ongoing in Maldon. Now, what I will say is some of that is a result of seasonality, because policing, like any sort of business necessarily or service, will have periods of higher demand than others. But it's nice to see that that is an increasing trend over the last 6 months. Final bit of context for this slide, that is just the small number of officers that I have in the Maldon district. The wider policing family have obviously contributed significantly more in the Maldon district to those figures as well. But that was just a little snapshot of a year's work.
Okay. Thanks, Chief Inspector Ballard. Very interesting. Sorry, have you finished? No?
Would you like me to bring up that slide with the data, or would you want me to?
Yes, please. Yeah, do that. I'm sure people will be referring back to it. But I'm going to, at the risk of being seen to take advantage, on the question of speeding, in my particular ward of Wickham Bishops, the road from Whittam through the street and down to Heybridge is a matter of concern. In fact, there was quite a serious RTA in Wickham Bishop some months back. And I mean, obviously, I know it's difficult, but whatever can be done, and that's a problem that's only going to get worse as the Heybridge Garden suburb builds out and people wish to get to Whittam Station. So whatever you can do to assist on that would be gratefully received.
Thank you, Chair. And that sort of information is key for us, and we call it community intelligence. And you know, hopefully that's relatively, you know, because we do like to use a term or an op name in the police, and it can sometimes make it a little bit opaque for the public. But you know, the community intelligence is exactly that. So that sort of information. So I'm grateful for you providing it. But you know, from yourselves as councillors, what you're hearing from your constituents and those within your communities, or for the public themselves, if they report that there are issues like that going on in those areas, that sort of information is key for us, so that we can make sure that we're in the right place at the right time, and that we are utilising the right resources. So I've made a note of it, and I'm grateful for that. But I would ask that, you know, to take away, as I'm sure you will, and do regularly. If there are issues like that in your areas, please just let us know.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Spencer.
I'm going to do just that. So I looked at the slide. This is actually quite a serious issue, and I'm going to raise it now with the Community Safety Partnership. And I'm not going to make any apologies to anyone for bringing up something in my area, because if I save the life of one individual, it'll have been worth getting on everybody's nerves. So the North Heybridge Garden suburb, pedestrian access, and so there is something really terrifying going on. First of all, we ended up with pedestrians walking along Maypole Road, which is a national speed limit road with no pavements. That's still going on. I had to work quite hard to get an immediate temporary path put into the back of the estate that leads onto Holloway Road, which has now been done, but took some doing. But there's actually a problem which is a lot less solvable. So the new estate that's already built, which is Sharps Meadow, will from quite soon now have no access at all to any other services except on a narrow path on a 40-mile-an-hour road. So I went there with an enforcement officer a couple of days ago, and then I had a horrific realisation that further up the road, moving towards Great Totham, where the new roundabout is, which you may know where that is, please go up there and look at the pedestrian access. There will be hundreds of people there trying to get down a road that is 40 miles an hour, which in places has a pavement that wide. It was terrifying. I nearly slipped into the road, as the officer did with me. Those houses are as of yet largely unoccupied. I don't know how it happened that we looked so poorly at the pedestrian access in and out of that development, but it is over 1,600 houses that will eventually have been built over time there. So we are talking about a huge number of people. And in terms of the primary school that will come forward on that site, it won't happen till around 2032. That's an awful long time for somebody to have a serious accident. And not only that, the plume is going to remain where it is. And we witnessed while we were there a teenager trying to get across a road with trucks flying past at 40 miles an hour. Please help me for the sake of my residents. So I make that plea publicly because I'd like all the agencies to get together. I'm currently working on an application to Highways for a speed limit reduction on that road, but I know that's going to be a long and laborious process, and my fear is it will just take too long. So I really urge all the agencies to get in touch with me. I'll meet anyone there. I'll do whatever you want, but please give us your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Obviously, those sort of issues are a challenge for ourselves as well, and I totally appreciate that road safety and pedestrian safety is absolutely a priority for Essex Police, the PFCC, and all of my teams and those that we work alongside. It does sound like a wicked issue, and one that will be a challenge and will require, as you say, a joined-up approach. If I could just ask that after tonight, Spencer and I will discuss how we can perhaps, as agencies, it may be that not me personally, but members of the road policing team that work and sit on the Safer Essex Roads Partnership, that may be able through SERP, we can perhaps put some, not pressure, but we can certainly make some representations on behalf of all agencies and yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Councillor Morley.
Yes, just come back on that. I know that piece of road. Most lorries now can't pass because the hedges haven't been cut, so they actually have to mount that pavement.
That's right.
I do know because we've got trucks that regularly now break mirrors and all. I've tried to speak to the county, but I cannot seem to get any hedges cut. I mean, that Maypole Road's crazy. 2 lorries can't pass there anymore. I don't know what's going on in Essex. It's just ridiculous. Tiptree, you can't pass up by Underwoods because there's it's nuts. And Asda. If you could somehow have a word with at county level and say why we've got to have trucks on that road. You can't help it. You can't have them mounting the pavement. And the Colchester Road that leaves Tiptree, I know that's not Maldon, but even there, they're mounting the pavement there. It's nuts. If you can. Also, do you find with drugs, if you tackle that, obviously that helps all the other statistics. Do you find if you can, even with driving, doesn't it? If you can prioritise drugs and things, that obviously helps. Is that how you work it as well?
It's a challenge because how do you know what we've prevented? And I don't mean that in a sort of a dismissive way, but it can be sometimes quite difficult if you deal with someone for drug offences and you take out a county line. Quantifying exactly the reduction that's had in other areas. But what I can say from my 20 years of policing is that if you do deal with a community issue like county line drugs or a licensed premises where there's particular issues that are ongoing or something of that like, what you then do subsequently find is that other crime types start to drop. So particularly around drug use and drug supply, I've seen it before where that's significantly impacted in a local area. You then start to see a drop in shoplifting, you then start to see a drop in vehicle crime and violent offences as well. So it is a challenge to quantify. I think the only way to really do it is over the longer term and look at just the general data. This is what we did on this day, and 12 months later actually look at the comparison in regards to these type of crime types. But what I can say with confidence after 20 years in policing is that it does impact. Those sort of interventions and disruptions do have an impact.
I'd imagine your judgment would tell you have, and I would say for your officers, when they do have a drugs bust, if I dare use that American term, I'm sure they may have saved a life somewhere just by grabbing that amount. So they must feel quite good to have thought, well, whatever happens, they must have saved something. So, thank you.
There are many benefits to being a police officer, and I won't list them. There are also some frustrations, but that's like any profession. But what I can say, again, with confidence, is that the overwhelming majority of officers and police staff that I've worked with want to do a good job for the community. And I can speak from personal experience. There is not really much of a feeling that I've experienced professionally doing a really good job for someone and making sure that making a real difference in the community. It does give you a bit of a lift that you don't really get in many other professions. So they do really get something out of it, professionally and personally. Yeah.
You just know somewhere along the line it's got to be.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Chief Inspector, just looking at your chart here, there's an awful lot of red on there and an awful lot of quite high percentages. So an idle viewer could suggest that there's a major crime wave breaking out in Maldon. Could you perhaps put it into context for us and give us all a good night's sleep?
Yes, of course. So thank you, Chair. So no, you're quite correct. And as much as I can put context on it in the sense that the percentages do look sometimes slightly scary compared to the volumes. These are the 12-month figures, and policing, not just in Maldon but across Essex and nationally, have seen increases in certain offences as other societal factors have kicked in over the last 12 months. But as we are and as we have been continuing to do, we've identified those sort of challenges and those issues, and we're looking to bring it down. So what I can say with confidence is those that are perhaps more stark and more marked in respect of the offending, particularly the burglary and the vehicle crime, is that in the last 3 months, residential burglary in the Maldon district is reduced by 23%. And in the last 3 months, vehicle offences is reduced by 93%. So again, I put the caveat on that is that the percentages are slightly larger than you would expect because the volumes are relatively low. But you're quite correct. But by the same token, when crime has significantly lower volumes than perhaps other larger districts, one that I also have responsibility for, which is in Chelmsford, very slight differences in offences can then put you from a red into a green and vice versa. So what I would do is reassure yourself, Chair, and the group that whilst that does look slightly more red than green, certainly more than we would like, actually there's a lot of context to it and it's an improving picture over the last 3 months. Similarly, I can also say, Chair, that although it's not on that slide, the solved rate for Maldon has also increased over the last 12 months and is actually up 2.7% from memory off the top of my head.
It's very reassuring. Councillor Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief Inspector, and to all your constables and all your staff as well, because it's a tough gig, I should think, so thank you. One particular figure that I noticed in the report that we've got is the death or serious injury caused by unlawful driving. Last year there were 35 offences, this year there are 47. I know that's, with small numbers, as we've just said, it's not statistically significant, but it does seem quite a high rise. And not being able to see, in this paper anyway, preceding years, I don't know if this is part of a trend or if you could comment on that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So in Maldon district specifically, so the figures that I think you've got there, you've got the Maldon figures, and then just to the right of those, you've got the force figures for Essex. So for Maldon, there have been 2 in the last 12 months compared to the 12 months before. But force-wide, within Essex, you're quite right. And I was at a public meeting with the PFCC, Mr Hurst, on Monday, and he was very clear about the fact that people killed on our roads in Essex is higher in number than any other factor of people being, killed or dying in Essex completely added together. So it is a significant priority for Essex Police and our partners in regards to enforcement and designing out safer roads. So it is a real strong focus for us all. There has been an increase. I don't believe it's been a year on year. I think it's been up and down, and I think we have to be careful of comparisons with the COVID years because obviously there was significant changes in people's behaviour and certainly travel. But it is something that the PFCC and everyone within Essex Police is really focused towards, and that's why ourselves in the police from a very local perspective, and also our partners in the Community Safety Partnership have got road safety as one of our key priorities for the Maldon district. It's not necessarily a key priority for every district because some districts have got different challenges, but certainly here, road safety and reducing that number is a real priority for us.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. It's a very mundane question, I'm afraid, but residential non-dwelling, is that sheds and garages or something I hadn't thought of? I was trying to figure out how it's residential if you don't live there.
That's actually a very astute question, Councillor, because National Crime Recording Standards, the Home Office dictate to all police forces in Essex, in England and Wales, how we record crime. And they do it in order to improve understanding of crime and the perception and actually how we record it in general terms. So you are 100% correct. A residential burglary, unconnected building or non-dwelling is that. It is a garage, a shed, but it's still attached to a residence. The only difference is when you've got a non-dwelling, which is a burglary of a shop premises or a warehouse or something like that. It used to be very clear in how we were referred to it as to whether it was a house or not a house. It's been slightly different because the Home Office have asked us to record it as residential burglary or residential burglary unconnected building. So that is a very subtle difference, but you're absolutely right in what it means. Any other questions? Right, in which case, Chief Inspector Ballard, thank you very much indeed for that presentation. It is obviously a great privilege and pleasure to live in the Maldon district, and one of those is the low crime rate, which is, I suspect, very much due to your zeal and enthusiasm from you and your officers. So thank you very much. Keep up the good work. Right, so moving on to agenda item 8, activity update of Essex County Fire and Rescue Service in the Maldon district, and we're delighted to welcome Scott Meekings, the North East Group Commander from the Essex County Fire and Rescue Service.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, councillors, for welcoming me here tonight. Yes, my name's Scott Meekings. I am the Group Commander for the North East Command of Essex, and I also look after the National Resilience assets for the whole of Essex Fire Service as well. Just quick overview, operationally, I'm sure you're all aware, but Essex County Fire and Rescue Service divide the County of Essex up into 4 areas, North West, North East, South East and South West. The North East, which I command, covers the Tendring District, the Colchester Borough and the Maldon District. Within the Maldon District, we have Maldon Fire Station, Burnham Fire Station, Tillingham Fire Station, and we also capture Tollsbury as well. We have a station commander, Howard Midwood, who would normally come to these meetings because he directly manages those stations for the Maldon district, and he is all over the data and very much up to speed with how the stations have been performing, and I line manage Howard. Howard can't be here tonight because he's on a waste fire tactical advisor course, so he's developing his skills. Hopefully he won't come across you, councillor. If we could go to the next slide, that'd be great. Thank you. So just quickly, the structure and resources for the North East Command, I'll sort of do this slide back to front. As you can see, we've got 15 fire stations within the North East, and I've already mentioned within the Maldon district we have the 4 fire stations. And you'll see the 15th, all 14 are actual fire stations, but the 15th is our urban search and rescue and technical rescue station as well. So that doesn't actually fight fires. That deals with all the building collapses, major transport incidents, road rescues, and things that are out of the norm for the standard fire service attendances. So I'd like to talk quickly now about some of the community work, and then I can talk to you about some of the response and operational incident work that we have undertaken within the Maldon district. So as the Chief Inspector mentioned within his presentation, we have a tri-service rural community officer, and that's Les Davis. And yeah, he's employed by the Fire Rescue Service, but works on behalf of the fire, the police, and the ambulance. So in line with the PFCC's desire to improve collaboration between the emergency services, this role came about and was introduced within the Maldon and the Dengie Peninsula. And a tri-service commitment was designed to increase the number of people, especially those who are vulnerable, that each service is able to reach and support within the area. That's the whole point of the tri-service officer. Historically, prevention activity was delivered individually by services, and by working for all three services, it's intended to reduce duplication of effort and try and coordinate all of the work streams and make every contact count to improve the sense of safety within the community and public well-being, especially amongst the rural areas. The role brings together residents and professionals from across the district to build on community strengths, to better understand needs and to utilise community assets to improve the lives of the people living within our communities. I have some of the groups that Les has attended over the past 12 months. There's the Maldon Live Well group, the Maldon Dementia Friendly Communities group, One Maldon, Suicide Prevention, Chelmsford and Maldon Hub Tasking, the PFCC Rural Crime Forum, Essex Rural Partnership, Essex Associations of Local Councils. You'll have to excuse me, I'm not sure what this acronym is, but the RCCCT Water Safety at Holbridge Project Group. Apologies, I'm not sure what that one is. Local parish council meetings and the Dengie Farm Watch Group. Now, the tri-service officer is quite far-reaching as well, has many partners, PFCC, Essex Police, Maldon Council, parish councils, the Maldon Community Volunteer Services, Citizens Advice, community agents, Alzheimer's, Moat Housing, Community 360, Crime Stoppers, SERP, Doctor Surgeries, religious groups, Salvation Army, NFU, and many, many, many more. So you can see it's quite wide-reaching, lots of partners involved, and it's really a worthwhile community engagement role. Some of the I've got pages of some of the initiatives put in place, so I'll just cover a few just to give you a flavour of some of the work that's undertaken, and that's Suicide Prevention Group, the Slipper Swap Scheme to assist with falls prevention, village patrols, fraud ambassador training, mental health first aid training, loan shark awareness, dementia friends awareness training, community speed watch, and many other public events. The list goes on and on and on. I just wanted to sort of give you as the councillors an understanding of how worthwhile that role is. We also have community safety officers who work in the Maldon area, and some of the work that they've been involved in is that the Haybridge Fair and Plantation Hall all-day event, Tinningham Flower Show, the Community in a Cup URC Maldon. Apologies, I'm not familiar with that one. The U Fest in Promenade Park, Maldon all-day event. TARES. So TARES stand for Tactical After Incident Response. So when we have a domestic dwelling in a street, we will undertake what's called a Tactical After Incident Response, and we'll use our operational crews and the tri-service officers and our community safety officers to go and visit those streets and basically door knock and ensure that people are informed on fire education and to see whether or not they have working smoke detectors in their homes, and try and just really push that prevention message to make people safer. And many other activities our community safety officers have engaged with. I'll also just briefly mention about the Maldon Community Speed Watch. Chief Inspector also mentioned this in his presentation, but Essex County Fire and Rescue Service have employed a dedicated community safety speedwatch coordinator, which is funded by Essex Fire Service, the Office of the PFCC and SERP. And the CSW coordinator oversees the recruitment, registration and retention of groups and acts as the main liaison between volunteers and the SERP partners. Essex Police regulates the scheme and underwrites the insurance for the CSW volunteers. So there's lots of strong positive work that goes on within that area as well. Yes, next slide, please. Thank you. I've captured some of the data. Hopefully you can see that up on the screens. Some of the response activities we've undertaken, operational response, that's actually fire engines attending incidents. Between the particular dates in red, we've had 513 incidents, 203 false alarms, 117 fires, 134 special services, and 59 RTCs, road traffic collisions. The prevention work, the dates are slightly different. I've managed to get it up to the end of September, and we've undertaken 597 visits, and they include safe and well visits, your home fire safety checks, safe and well sensory visits, community builder, and safe and well care line and virtual home fire safety visits as well. And that's undertaken by our actual operational crews, our community safety officers, our volunteers, and our tri-service officer as well. So it's a combination. Protection, so more of the legal side of things, we've had 26 safety inspections completed across the district within that time frame. Maldon Fire Station specifically, Maldon is an on-call fire station, so it's not a whole-time fire station. It's crewed by an on-call team who are fantastic and very, very committed. You can see the availability figures up on the screen there. So 2024, we've got 90% availability, which is really, really strong for an on-call station. The firefighters at Maldon are really committed, and we are continuously recruiting, and I'll talk to you about recruitment shortly. Just to give you councillors some reassurance, although it says 90% availability, Maldon Fire Station is always 100% available, because if there are the very odd occasion where our on-call teams are not available to crew the fire engines, then we will bring in another fire appliance in advance before the Maldon crew go off the run, so there will always be a fire engine readily deployable from Maldon Fire Station, because it is one of our strategic stations. And Maldon Fire Station, apologies, I've jumped ahead on my screen. Maldon Fire Station also houses, hosts a bulk foam module, an environmental module, and a welfare module as well for our crews as well. So it's a really important fire station for us. So we need to make sure that it's always available to support the communities and support our fire crews as well. Thanks. I've just pulled together a few recent incidents of note that I've pulled off the website, and I won't go into them, but just some incident data up here. My eyes are failing me. So I'm just going to enlarge the screen. There we go. Right. So this is just a little bit of data pulled from October last year through to the end of September this year, and it's broken down in minutes, so apologies, but I've also given the percentages across the other side as well. So you can see the types of, the key types of fires and the time spent on each of the incidents that we go to. So 13% of false alarms. Now, when we say false alarms, we don't necessarily mean the malicious false alarms, the old school people going into the phone box dialing 999 and putting in a false malicious call. They can also be false alarm with good intent, which generally that's what they are this day and age. So someone might see a lot of smoke coming from the rear of a property and assume the house is on fire, but when we get there, it's actually someone with a bonfire that's burning under control. So yeah, they're classed as false alarms as well. So 13% of our time within the Maldon district was taken up by false alarms. Actual fires was 56% of the time. RTCs, now Maldon is quite good from Essex County Fire and Rescue Service statistics with regards to RTCs. I mean, 10%, we still don't want 10% because obviously 0% is what we're aiming for. But yeah, 10% RTCs we attend, and special services is 21%. Special services are non-fire or non-RTC related incidents. Could be an animal rescue, could be someone stuck at height, all the other sort of incident types that fall outside of the standard categories. Yeah. So again, a bit like the Chief Inspector slide, it's a very, very busy, probably hard to read slide. But with regards to ignition sources of the actual fires that we've attended, I asked our data team to pull together the types of fires, the sources of ignition from the fires that we've attended from October last year through to the end of September this year. You'll see not known is the highest, and that's purely because a lot of incidents that we go to when we undertake fire investigation, sometimes it is just it's very, very hard to prove whether it was accidental, deliberate, and actually where the source is. And unless it becomes what we call a tier 2 fire investigation, where harm has come to somebody, or there's serious damage to or a very high insurance issue, or very high property damage, we would then only undertake a tier 1 fire investigation. And sometimes it's just very, very hard to understand where the ignition source is. You'll see that cooking appliances are, well, they're not high, but they're high up with regards to the figures on the screen, and the electricity supply. So obviously, as we're coming into the colder, darker winter months, we will now focus our prevention activities more on candle awareness and making sure people's chimneys are clean and ovens are clean. So we tend to focus our prevention activity around those sort of themes as well. So yeah, next slide, thanks. So I've got a number of slides where I've just pulled a few incidents that hit headlines. Thankfully, nothing is too serious in the Maldon area, so we don't. I won't go through all of the details, but we've got firefighters rescuing a dog and a fox trapped under a shed. Next one was a dog rescued from mud. So you see, animal rescues is quite a theme in the Maldon area, and they're the special services. I think this particular one was a Great Dane, I believe, and we had to, because the dog was so big, we actually had to treat it as a large animal rescue, which would normally be a horse or a cow or something like that. So we had to mobilise our large animal rescue unit to that particular incident. We've got some haystack fire. This is over in Latchington. The next one, we had a domestic property fire with a roof caught alight in Spittal Road. So I just thought I'd throw a few incidents of note up there for you to see. So I'm sure the council is well aware of our local home fire safety campaign that we continuously push. We really want our communities to engage with the online home fire safety checks. You can log on to the website, and I mean, very kind or polite request if you could push that out to your communities, just engage where they can, and we can get teams out to come and assess properties and offer free fire safety advice and smoke detectors as well, just to try and keep the community safe. I'd like to plug that, if I may. Thank you ever so much. Recruitment. Yes, we are recruiting on-call firefighters at Maldon Fire Station. 3 key areas that people need to be aware of when, if they are considering to become an on-call firefighter. It is a very worthwhile and rewarding job. To be an on-call firefighter is a heck of a commitment, and I really take my hat off to all of our on-call firefighters, because they really do serve the community well and serve the community hard. An on-call firefighter will have their primary job, and then they will carry a pager with them, and when that pager goes off, they have to drop what they're doing, respond to the fire station, and then respond to the emergency incident. So it's a real important role that they undertake, but they need to live within or work within 5 minutes of the Maldon Fire Station, or Burnham, or Tillingham, or Tollsbury, so they can respond within a certain time frame. They need to be over 18, and they need to be physically fit. And obviously, it's, as it says up on the slide, we can support anybody that wants training plans or fitness routines if they think that they're not able to pass the fitness test. And again, this can be this is all over our Essex Fire Service website as well. And the last thing I'd like to push, ask for your support as councillors, is our CRMP, our Community Risk Management Plan. So the PFCC sets the fire priorities. They're the sort of strategic goals that the PFCC would like to achieve, and then that's fed into the fire rescue plan, the PFCC's fire rescue plan, which sets out the strategy for our organisation. The CRMP is basically what actions that plan. So everything that's captured in the PFC strategy, the CRMP then details how that is put into action. And as I put up there, need your help. Need your help and the community's help to engage with the community risk plan. That went live for public engagement last Friday. There are 13 proposals, and I think it stays open until, I've got the 21st of November in my head. But if you're able to communicate with your communities to engage with the CRMP, that would be really appreciated. We want to get as much feedback, as much consultation as possible. Tell us what you think we need to know and hear and understand as to how we can improve our service, improve our delivery to the communities. And just quickly up here, the proposals, as I said, there are now 13 proposals, and the aim is to strengthen our prevention and protection work activities, have more fire engines available during peak hours, respond to life-threatening incidents as quickly as possible, provide our people with the equipment, training and development opportunities so we can provide excellent services to our public and each other, provide modern buildings and facilities for our staff, be a safe, supportive and inclusive employer, and obviously deliver value for money. And I believe, Chair, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Meekins, no, thank you for a most interesting presentation. It's been some time, I have to say, since we had a representative for a rescue service here addressing our committee. So I very much hope it'll be a permanent fixture for going forward. I won't ask you to comment on the proposal to put fire pits in the Prom Park, but what I would ask is, I'm aware that, is there a statistic or a notable statistic now for fires relating to electric bikes or electric vehicles in terms of batteries, etc.?
Thank you, Chair. There is. I don't have that information at hand, but that is a very, very hot topic with us at the moment,
sure
for
it
want
is.
of a better term. Yeah, sorry, apologies for that. That was very poor. Yes, it is. It's very high on our agenda. We're constantly discussing it, especially anything battery related. One of the biggest challenges that we do have is with the e-scooters, people charging them in communal areas. So if they live in a block of flats and they charge them in the communal area, which is obviously used for the escape route in the event of a fire, that then stops people from escaping. We also have the issue around, and I'm sure the Chief Inspector will support this as well, with people modifying e-scooters, and some of these e-scooters have been reported to be able to achieve speeds of up to 70 miles per hour, which is just absolutely horrendous. And that's without wearing any motorcycle protective equipment. And so obviously you can see one where that's a problem with regards to RTC situations, but also that's a lot of energy and force being driven onto that battery, which potentially can overheat. But apologies, I don't have that statistic with me. But
it is something that's growing. It's a sort of it's a continuing.
Yeah, we have our hazmat group, our hazardous material group of officers. That is one key area that they are focusing on at the moment to try and tackle the e-battery situation that we face.
Thanks very much. Let's go, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. It's really informative. Can I pick out a couple of things that I'm interested in? So if you were to go back about 3 or 4 slides, you had the information about the different fires, about Maldon Fire Station and the 98% cover. Yes, that's it, that one. On the right-hand side there, so you've got the years, and then it's got P1 and high percentages and P2 and a dropping percentage. Could you explain that for me, please? Thank you.
Of course, Councillor, apologies, yes. So P1 and P2 are codings that we use for fire appliances. So P stands for Papa, the phonetic alphabet, and that relates to pump. Basically it's what we call our fire appliances. So Papa 1 will be a rescue pump, Papa 2 will be our water tender. They are just both fire engines, just slightly different variations. Papa 1 is the rescue pump, and that is the key, that is the main response fire engine, and Papa 2 will be the second, the backup fire engine, the water tender. So you can see, the availability statistics for Papa 2 has significantly dropped, and that is because we have had some retirements with a retirement profile within Maldon Fire Station. However, we are actively recruiting to fill those gaps, and we're doing Maldon Fire Station has done really well with its recruitment, but at the point of recruitment, a firefighter doesn't then become an immediately qualified firefighter. Unfortunately, it takes 2 or 3 years to become fully qualified and then allow for the availability to increase. But I get the 2024 figure doesn't look good, but just as some reassurance, Maldon's doing really well with its recruitment. Our recruit firefighters there are really progressing strongly along their development pathways, and I'm very, very confident that those figures will be up back where they should be in the top quarter very soon.
Anyway, Councillor Morley.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I don't know whether it's my gut feeling, but is there slightly less arson about with straw stacks and farms in general at the moment, or is it just that I haven't spotted it?
Again, yes. I don't have the statistics.
Yeah. It just feels like this.
Yeah, absolutely. In general, we have attended a lot less stack fires this year. Obviously, was it 22? Was that the heat wave summer? I mean, yeah, the whole country was ablaze, and I think we had a lot of learning come out of the heat wave 2022, and I believe we've done a lot of rural engagement with farmers and the farming community, and you may or may not have seen that we've got a community engagement officer involved with the farming community, and we've actually got a fire tractor sponsored as well. We've done a lot of work with the farming community around farmers understanding how to plough their fields slightly differently, with putting in fire breaks and utilising their water bowsers, so it's much quicker to get water at rural scenes than before. And we've also been able to put in place what we call a Euro coupling, which allows our fire engines to plug into farm water supplies much more quicker. So I think since the heat wave in 2022 and the community engagement, the rural community engagement, I think a lot of learning has been undertaken and progressed from that. So your gut feeling is absolutely correct, Councillor.
So do you attend the Doe show like the police do? Do you sort of have because that's quite a good local...
So I believe we do. We also attend the Essex Young Farmers Show as well. Yeah. So absolutely. Previously, we have attended the Doe Show because I've been there myself. But I'm not sure if we attended this year. I can't recall. I'd have to speak to. Yeah, I'd have to speak to our station commander of Maldon to confirm that. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I did have another question and then just a general comment, really. So coming forward towards the end from that slide, there was a list of the causes of fire. I understand what you're saying about if there's no injury, you wouldn't spend the effort on trying to get to the bottom of something that you just can't tell. So I understand that top one. But the one underneath where nobody's listed the cause, that seems a bit worrying to me, because if all of those, for example, were, I don't know, naked flames, lighted paper or card, that might lead to some sort of campaign around that, or feel that they should be listed with a reason.
Yeah. Sorry, apologies, Councillor. Yes, you're absolutely right, and I'm not sure why, when the data was pulled, why that came out as none listed, because we have to list every time. We have what's called an IRS, an incident recording system, and all of the information is absolutely captured on there. So I'm not sure why none listed came up. I can only apologise, but there is always something that is listed. Every fire is investigated, every fire. So I'm not sure why that's come up as none listed. There must have been a confusion with the computer system when they put in a request for the data set.
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, hopefully you will be able to come back to a future meeting and then maybe that statistic will be sorted out. And then just a general observation, really. I'm more than happy to try and promote campaigns and information that you need promoting. But just for your awareness, because you might not really have thought about this, I certainly don't have a notice board, and I don't think most district councillors have a physical notice board. I can post stuff on Facebook with the best of them. If somebody sends me a Facebook link, I'm more than happy to share it. So if you were to do that, most of us would be able to then share that very quickly. If you want something physical paper out there, and perhaps some of your target audience would need to see that, parish councils on the whole have a physical notice board, and lots of villages have parish magazines. I edit one, but I'm not saying it because of that, just in general that would be another route for you to get in front of people. But it would be difficult for us to communicate much other than Facebook and in general conversations with people, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll first thing tomorrow morning, I'll be speaking to our communications team and asking them to contact you and providing the links. That'd be amazing, thank you. And I'll have a chat with the station commander Howard when he's back to engage with the local parishes as well to see if we can also get a paper version put up on the notice boards. Thank you very much for that.
Councillor Bill.
Thank you. Just a very quick one. Are you still running the fire bike courses?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Should we say a bit about what they are?
So yes, the fire bike scheme, the fire bike course is around promoting safer riding with motorcycles and motorcyclists. Obviously, not the motorcycles; it'll be the riders. Promoting safer road use and ensuring the actual motorcycles are roadworthy and safe as well. We do this in partnership with the police. It's a really beneficial, worthwhile course. I've been on one myself many years ago, and it really taught me a lot. It's fantastic. And that is that still run through SERP? Or
Yeah, I think it's the same scheme as the VR driving simulator that you
yeah,
as well, isn't it? With the drink driving.
it is, yeah. But we have actual motorcycle instructors from the fire service and from the police, which will pull together motorcyclists and take them out for the day and teach them how to ride safely and talk about bike maintenance and everything else. So it's really worthwhile for that community.
Through the chair, I have done it, and it was one of the most terrifying things I've ever done, but it certainly improved my motorcycling, so I'm really glad that's still happening. Thank you.
Just a quick one in general to the police. Are e-scooters allowed on the roads? Someone told me they're not. In general, please.
So, other than locations where they are currently running government sponsored trial schemes like Chelmsford, e-scooters are mechanically propelled vehicles for the purposes of road legislation, so there are the same requirements in regards to e-scooters as there are to other mechanically propelled vehicles, and that goes for e-bikes as well. So it is a challenge because they're marketed as something that you can use, and they're marketed at individuals that would not necessarily know that they're not able to use them without the required paperwork and certification that you would have if you was driving another vehicle or type of vehicle. So outside of areas where they're part of a scheme, then no, they should not be using. And even within those areas, they should only be using the scooters that are part of that scheme. It is a challenge. My children ask for them constantly and are very disappointed every Christmas and birthday when they don't get one.
Councillor Spencer.
Thank you, Chair. So really for Mr Meakin, just as you were talking about e-batteries, I was just really a thought crossed my head that I thought I'd better make clear, because you talked there quite a lot about a team looking at e-battery fires, and I understand all the points about e-scooters, but I was looking up here at vehicles and engine fuel line pump fires, and we have got four of those on there, and I just wanted to make it clear that we weren't putting people off of electric cars or suggesting that they go around and catch fire or their batteries are a particular danger, because I would be really worried that we weren't getting that message across unnecessarily. Then it doesn't really apply to car batteries. No. So no, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Does Bradwell Power Station come as part of your responsibilities?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And does that give you particular issues? Presumably it must do.
It doesn't at the moment. It's very safe and is and is very strict with the legislation it has to comply with. But it doesn't cause us any challenges or problems currently.
Okay.
Well, just were you involved with the Thurrock and what caused it? The waste TLM.
I was actually on leave when that fire occurred. I haven't. To be honest, I don't actually know what the cause was. I've heard rumours, and I probably wouldn't want to share those rumours at this time, but you can probably guess. No, I didn't attend that incident though. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you for coming.
Yes, no, indeed. Can I just thank all three of you gentlemen for a most interesting and illuminating evening, and thank you for taking the time to come and address us this evening. And I'm sure all the committee will join me in that statement. Thank you very much indeed. So moving on then to item 9, any other items of business that the chairperson of the committee decides are urgent, and you'll be pleased to know I have none, and therefore I close this meeting at 21:24. Thank you, members.